a production of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. Visit us at mesachamber.org.
We're going to get started with our Project 25 BASS meeting for today is June 22nd, 2021. And we got a wonderful program and I'm excited about that. And we're going to do our announcements up front. So Amanda, Amanda Schneider, go ahead and tell us what you've got and what's going on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Amanda Schneider. I know Kathleen has mentioned, and we have also Deb Shapiro on this call who have introduced Amplify Voices before. I am one of the speakers that took part in that event at the end of March, and I just wanted to briefly share what's going on with us. In January, for those of you that don't know, Amplify Voices, its mission, it's a nonprofit project, and its mission is to discover and amplify the voices of those who have been historically silenced, oppressed, and misunderstood. And we started a project in January around survivors of sex trafficking and sexual abuse. And so I was one of the 7 speakers who started this 90-day program. And I'll tell you from my perspective, it was just to come in and find, craft a talk, step on stage the end of March and deliver my talk. And that was supposed to be it. Kathleen Winn was a fantastic speaker and contributor to our event. However, what's happened after that event, the audience members, those who participated, it was such an impactful event that we have really entered this amplify stage. We're continuing to spread these messages out there. And so something that became loud and clear for us, as we know, statistically speaking, sex trafficking is very much a part of our community. If you open it back up to sexual assault, which is where I came in, we know statistically speaking, 1 in 3 women have been impacted by it. And we've had audience members come out and say, I want to have my voice heard. I have a story. And, I think for all of us speakers, the 7 speakers that went through, we had no idea the impact of spending this time with this group of women going through this process together, that transformational healing effect that it had, and then also being able to have our voice heard in a powerful, compelling, positive way, because again, this is about triumph over our circumstances. And so other women have seen that and they want to be a part of that. So
where I just got, let me make sure I'm.
Please mute. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Amanda. Sorry.
Great. So 2 things. One, we have created a way for more women to have their voices heard, and we're starting what we're calling right now speaker circles. It's a smaller condensed version. It's a 30-day experience. We're forming our first group of 7 new speakers, 7 women to go through this experience. And we're really excited about this process because we know so many people have been touched by this, and this is really a way to really get that message out there, get that transformation and that way of women connecting and healing and getting their voices heard out there. So we're looking for, if you know of anybody that would be impacted and interested in that, and then we're also looking for sponsors through that process. So I will put in the contact information if you're interested in more information. Secondly, what we're really excited about is this amplifying process. We have an event coming up on July 20th at the Alamo Draft House in Tempe. We're going to re-show these talks and then have the speakers, as well as Kathleen has generously agreed to be there to speak as well, to have a conversation, because really it's about, starting with these empowering, inspiring messages, getting the awareness out there, and also having a real live conversation. So we're wanting to bring the community together. We would love to have you attend if you're able, and we're really wanting to make an impact and we've got a goal to fill our theater. So
Amanda,
yes.
Can you give specifics? So it's July 20th. Do you have a time?
Yes, the doors open at 5:30 p.m. Our event will start at 6 p.m. We anticipate the talks will run about 90 to 100 minutes, about an hour and a half, and then we'll have a conversation and discussion afterwards.
Okay, and last thing is the address or the location, and then you can also put it in the chat. But
thank you. I will put the specific address in the chat. It's the Alamo Draft House in Tempe. It's roughly rural and baseline. And we will have a ticketing link. You can just directly go in and buy your tickets. That should be available any day. I wanted it for today. But.
No, that's great, and we can post it out too. So that's awesome. Wonderful, and we'll promote it. And just thank you, and thanks for everything, for stepping forward, for sharing your story, for everything that you're doing, and for the transformation that you're experiencing and you're continuing to experience, and your contribution to other victims and survivors is really heartwarming. It's great. It's wonderful. So thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you.
And thank you for being a part for us too.
I wouldn't be anywhere else. You guys you captured my heart. It took a lot of courage to do what you guys did, and I'm super proud. Okay, so then Rock Point Church is next, please. Lisa.
Okay. Hi there. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Taylor, and I am a volunteer for Rock Point Church. We are in the beginning stages of creating our human trafficking ministry. And one of the first things that's going to take place is Lighthouse Summit. This is an event that is shining light on the dark truth of human trafficking. We have some great speakers set up. First and foremost, we have Rebecca Bender, who is a survivor of human trafficking. She is our special guest speaker. Also, Sheriff Lamb will be attending. Jocko Boyens, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and Craig Sawyer. This event is going to take place July 18th at Rock Point Church, and I can email everyone the exact address and date. The event's going to be from 3 to 7 p.m., and this is just a great way to invite all of you to attend if you're interested. There is a link that I will provide as well where you can purchase your tickets to attend this event. And again, the idea is just to spread awareness about human trafficking in our community.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for jumping into this fight. And we're always happy to have church partners. You guys do such a great job. And I have to tell you, Rebecca, I love Sheriff Lamb. I think we all do. He's on the fight with this. And Rebecca's wonderful. Jocko Bowens is great too. And Craig Sawyer's from Tucson and former military, and he does a lot of great work in this area. So you've got a great team. It's a good start. So for just getting started, you picked 4 wonderful people to lead your event. So that'll be great. And we'll share your information out. And thanks for telling us. And our councilman, Kevin Thompson, has an update on the ordinance that Mesa PD and our massage parlors, right? And what's going on in public safety.
Absolutely.
All good stuff, Kevin, right? We get to lock everyone
really
up and throw away the key.
Yeah.
Is that what's going to happen?
Well, sort of. So one of the things, as I was talking with our heat folks and going out for ride-alongs, and we were looking at massage parlors, and as most people know, there's a lot of bad actors out there when it comes to massage parlors. A lot of them are used as storefront brothels, and PD kept telling me, the bad thing is we can shut them down, we can bust them, shut them down, and the next day they reopen under a different name with the exact same victims in the massage parlor. And so I went to our city attorneys and I said, hey, I would like to have an ordinance updated that goes after not only the massage parlor, but the property management or the property owner as well. And so what we effectively came up with, working with PD and with the city attorney's office, was an ordinance that, and we'll see it on city council fairly soon. It was supposed to come to public safety committee, but it wasn't quite ready. So I asked if we could just bypass public safety committee and go straight to council with it, which we're going to try to do soon. But what happens now is if we bust a massage parlor as a storefront brothel, the property owner is not allowed to open another massage parlor on site, anywhere on site, for up to 2 years. So we can basically eliminate a massage parlor being closed down and opening up again the next day. They won't be allowed, the property manager, the property owner in a strip mall, for example, won't be allowed to open up another massage parlor anywhere on that site. So that's a good thing.
Kevin, if let's say we've got some of our real estate owners of strip malls have more than one strip mall. So is there something in there that precludes them, if they shut it down in one location, opening it up in another location? There
isn't. No, there isn't. But if we can make a case that at that next massage parlor that they open up, that they're also being utilized as a storefront brothel, we can shut them down there as well. And so it gives PD a little more, it gives them some more tools to use to fight this, this crime in our city. So from what I'm being told, we'll be the first city, I don't know in the nation, but certainly in Arizona, that has an ordinance that's this stringent.
I'm so glad to hear it. And unfortunately, as we know, and not that it's our claim to fame, but we have an inordinate amount of massage parlors for the number of people that we have in our city. And
upwards of around 180 or so.
Yeah, and it's been as high as 220 at some point. So it's good that it's trending down, but unfortunately, the good ones are great, but the bad ones are horrific. And the more that you can do, I think it also helps law enforcement. So when would we see this go into effect? When do you think?
I need to.
We won't hold you to it, but possibly.
Yeah, I need to follow up with our assistant city manager and find out when it's going to come through. But like I said, it was supposed to come through our public safety committee, which we had 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't quite ready. And so I asked if we could just bypass public safety and bring it straight through council, and I was told that we could. So hopefully it's going to be, I would guess it'll be when we come back from break. So probably sometime early to mid August.
And is public safety okay that you bypass them? Considering you want them to.
Well,
I don't want them to be unhappy with us.
No, it's the public safety committee, and so I'm one of the committee members on the public safety committees. No. So public safety completely, the chief and the assistant chiefs and everyone else, the heat squad.
They all gave their input.
Everybody kind of gave their input, along with the Nancy Sorensen with the PD side on the attorney's office and our city attorney as well. So they worked with quite a few people and worked with law enforcement, looked at what's out there, and there wasn't a whole lot on this issue. And so we're kind of, we wanted to make sure that that whatever ordinance we put in place, law enforcement would be able to enforce. And so that's why it's kind of taken so long, because we want to make sure that it's the best it can be and that it does what we're going to want it to do.
Well, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to hearing that it's passed and that they can start to use it as a tool against these illicit massage parlors.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's great. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Gotcha.
So we are very fortunate today that we have with us Dr. Stephany Powell, who serves as the Director of Law Enforcement Training and Survivor Services for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, NCOSE. And I had the fortune to meet her recently, and I could have talked to her for 3 more days. Lucky for her, she had some place she had to get to and she had to leave town. But I am so impressed and so thrilled with the work that NCOSE is doing. As you know, in Arizona, we have a lot of missing children. Unfortunately, we're seeing kids walk away from group homes. We have a lot of Native American children missing out of our tribes in Arizona, it's estimated around 3,000. So we have a missing children problem here in Arizona, and it's good to know what our resources are. Dr. Powell served herself as a law enforcement officer, and I'll let her tell you about her background and her services. But Stephany, it's up to you, and it's all yours. And thank you so much today for being here. We greatly appreciate you. And it's all yours. I see that she's muted. Stephany?
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes. And you can go ahead and you can show us so we can see your beautiful face.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna tell you, this is what happens. See, God don't like ugly. What I was trying, let me tell you why God don't like ugly. Because what I was trying to do was show my Clipper background, see?
See,
Because they're playing today, right? So now I've messed everything up and I can't find where I was for my video for Zoom. See?
You had Nikosi up there. All was good. The Suns kicked your butt the other night. Now you're playing the Clipper clip. God's on our, there you go.
Hey, I'm telling you. See, I'm telling you. I was looking. So what I was going to open up with the Clipper background.
See? Yeah.
Stephany, that's called karma.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. See? Doggone it. Anyway.
We got it on the court and off the court, sister.
I just had to mess with you a little bit, but I see
we love you.
It came right back on me. So I'm going to talk about a few things, if you don't mind. I'm going to talk about some of the policies and legislation things that we've gone through in terms of our growing pains in Los Angeles, and we're still going through them. I'm going to talk a little bit about just kind of a review, a little bit of human trafficking. And I'm going to also share with you the concept of branding, because I don't know, I know when I was in Arizona during our visit, and I could have talked to you forever as well. And I know we talked a little bit, I think I asked you about the branding, meaning the tattooing, because it's something that we've been seeing in South Central Los Angeles since I was on the job. I retired in 2013, and I know I was seeing it in 2010. But then when I would go across the nation, they were not seeing it. So I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. So it's going to be a hodgepodge of a lot of things. One thing I do want to discuss before I even get started is the concept of missing and runaway. So oftentimes, if a parent comes in and says, my 15-year-old is missing, sometimes law enforcement might look at them as being a runaway. And so, of course, we know being a runaway is not a crime. But also what happens when they're deemed a runaway, that means nobody's really looking for them except for the parents. And so one of the things that I was speaking with a gentleman out of New York who was retired New York PD, is his thing is that everybody that's missing is missing. Because there's going to be a different concept, right? There's going to be a different reaction when you have someone is missing. Now we need to go look, everybody needs to look and go find them. And if that missing is under 10 years old, or they're much younger, everything stops and they go looking for them. But if it's somebody that's deemed a runaway, that doesn't happen. And how many of those same runaways are actually victims of human trafficking when you really think about it? When is an Amber Alert really, turned on? When somebody's considered a critical missing. I heard a mother who was a foster mother, and her foster daughter was missing, and she was 15 years old, and she had a disability. And when she went in, and keep in mind, the story I'm telling you was just from 2 months ago. When she went in to the police to say that her daughter was missing, they said, she's probably run away. She's with some friends. She'll probably show up in a couple of days. Well, the mother didn't, of course, stop there. She was actively looking, and she ended up seeking the help of a nonprofit organization that they're volunteers, and they look for missing kids because they understand missing is missing. And so they were able to locate that little girl 5 days later. Well, guess what? She had been taken and she was a victim of human trafficking. And so we have to really encourage law enforcement to take another look in terms of how we deem teenagers as being missing, and not to just always chalk it up as, you know, they've run away and they'll come back in a couple of days. Does that happen where they run away and they come back in a couple of days? Yeah, they do. But let's think about it, you guys. If that was your kid, you wouldn't care how they were missing. You don't care if they were over a friend's house hiding or what it was, right? You want someone to take this seriously and help you find this loved one that has disappeared from your household. So it's one of those things that we're really thinking out, and working with this gentleman out of New York PD to come up with ways in terms of awareness for law enforcement to start having a different look of missing individuals, regardless of whether they are deemed a runaway or not, taking it very seriously, because as we know, the average age of entry for human trafficking is between the ages of 12 and 14 years old, right? And so we just need to take seriously the fact that runaway is also could be an intersectionality of human trafficking. And so I think that that's important. So it's like kind of something that we're working on. And it brings me to another point. When we do look at the amount of African-American girls and Indigenous girls that are missing, there's so many of them that are missing, that are not being discovered. And that could be many reasons why they're not being discovered. It could be that people are not looking for them, or it could be that the parents have given up and they stopped looking for them, or law enforcement, or a system that they may be in. There's so many different reasons, but we need to find out those reasons as opposed to chalking it up as, like, oh, well, because the numbers are significant. And then when you talk about the fact that you'll hear serial killers that will say, the reason why I chose prostituted people was because I knew that nobody was looking for them. The reason why I chose African-American girls, because I knew nobody was looking for them. That's a systematic problem that we really need to address. And so I just wanted that to be on your mind as I talk about human trafficking, because when we talk about the missing, or the runaways, or whatever you want to call it, you see how the intersectionality actually exists, where there's that strong possibility that it's not just a runaway, or it's not just a missing girl or a boy that's upset because the parents took away the phone, that there's reason for it. And the other reason being, there needs to be some follow-up, and this is what we talked about as well. Let's say the person is a chronic runaway. Why are they running away from home so much? Why are you running away so much from a place that's supposed to be a safe haven for you? When you look back and see why you have chronic runaways, there's a reason. And some of those reasons could be familial human trafficking, because families do traffic their kids, unfortunately. Is it because there's other child abuse, whether it be emotional, physical, or sexual abuses going on? What's going on in that home that is causing a child to not feel safe, where they feel like they have to constantly run away? And we know that statistics also say that for a runaway, within 48 hours, they are met by a trafficker who, what are they offering them? A safe place to be. The only problem is that safe place to be has a price to it. So once I finish my presentation, I will open it up for, I'm going to leave enough room for conversation, discussion, and questions. So I will start. I want you guys to know that I'm distracted and very upset that I couldn't put up my clipper thing. I just want to say that. Okay, so
That's
I'm going
okay.
to talk about human trafficking in Los Angeles. And the only reason why I'm talking about this is not that I'm not comparing the two. You know, so often you'll ask an outside speaker to come and speak and they'll go like, well, this is the way we do it here. That's not the purpose of it. I just want you guys to see what it's like in LA, because guess what? A lot of and I talked to your law enforcement agency when I was in Arizona. I spoke to Phoenix. Oh God.
Mesa,
I'm sorry,
Mesa,
Mesa, and one more that starts with a C.
Chandler.
Yes, I talked to them, and a lot of them were saying that on their tracks, they are seeing girls coming in from LA. And guess what? In LA, we're seeing girls that are coming from everywhere. They're coming from Phoenix, they're coming from everywhere. So we're not in a silo. And so I think it's really important to not only understand what's going on in LA as it pertains to human trafficking, but also what's going on in terms of the laws, because this conversation of decriminalization, this conversation of repealing certain ordinances and laws, is conversations that are going on countrywide. So human trafficking in Los Angeles, California is the #1 state, and Houston is the #1 city. So within California, you have LA, San Diego, and San Francisco are some of your top cities. As you had said in your opening, I was a sergeant. I was with LAPD for 30 years. I left as a sergeant in charge of a vice unit. And my vice unit was out of the San Fernando Valley. So for the way LAPD is set up, we have 21 divisions, other places call them precincts, and within each division, they have their own vice units. So just like everywhere else, and this is uniformed, the average age of entry is between 12 and 14 years old. For African-American girls, we're seeing them as young as 11. And I have come across a couple of 7-year-olds that were being pimped out by either a grandfather or dad. And then the one thing that I don't think we get enough training on is familial sex trafficking of boys and girls. No expiration date, meaning that a lot of times the focus on human trafficking is on the juveniles. And sometimes we often forget the ones that are over 21 years old or over 18 that are being trafficked as well. And it has no expiration date, because the bottom line is when that girl turns 18, no, they're not presenting her with a birthday cake and telling her that she's free to go. It continues. And if nothing else, she's even more trapped in, because if she has been with her pimp since she was 12 and now she's 22 or now she's 18, she's been with him for a very long time and sees him as an emotional crutch. And then of course you have your emotional bondage. And I know that there are several people on this call that already know this stuff, like I said before, so please bear with me. Although the majority are female, we have to remember that there are boys that are trapped in this and they're exploited as well. Social media is a form of recruitment. And let me go back to this when we talk about pimps. So often we dig into the stereotype that pimps are going to be African-American males. If we believe that, then we're going to miss that female that is a pimp that is recruiting girls for other pimps. We're going to miss that white male or that Hispanic male if we're only looking for one type of pimp or trafficker. And you'll hear me use both words, but they're one and the same. College girls are being recruited as well. So this conversation in terms of awareness and prevention, we've got to go into our colleges as well. If we're going into our colleges and we're talking to girls about date rape, then we need to also have that conversation of how not to get caught up in the life. My daughter went away to Atlanta to Spelman College when she was 17. She went away in August. By September, she told me she'd gotten hit on at least about 3 times by pimps. And so, of course, my question was, So are they showing up at dances? And she's like, well, they don't have dances at the schools anymore. They're off-campus parties. And so if you know off-campus parties, you know, that brings about everybody to come to that party. And who is the most naive and gullible? It's going to be those girls, our girls that we have sheltered so much against the world, and first responders and attorneys, prosecutors. You know, we are good, and even us working for nonprofits are good for sheltering our own kids because we know what's out there. The problem is because they're sheltered and they don't know what's waiting for them, it makes them easy to recruit. And then when you talk about social media and they're posting things on Twitter and Instagram, you know, I was with my daughter and one of her friends, and I kid you not, all day they're taking selfies. Well, you know, I said, what are you doing? We're putting it up on the gram. Okay. Well, you know, that opens up things too, because as soon as somebody, you know, hits them up and says they're pretty, and if it's the right guy, now he's engaging them in conversation, and that's how they recruit. So we have to pay attention to our colleges, and then of course our middle and high schools. So I want to play for you. This is about branding, and what branding, they call it branding on the street, but what it is tattooing. So you may see a girl, and forgive my language, but this is what you see, where it may have the pimp's name and the word bitch behind it, meaning that is the pimp that she belongs to. So I'm going to show you just this short clip on branding. So hopefully it plays correctly.
From her childlike giggles and her sunny disposition, you'd never know the fear this teenager has lived in for years. But every time 17-year-old Adriana looks into a mirror, she has a mark to remind her. Tell me about what's tattooed across your chest.
This right here?
Yeah.
I call it my wall wound. It's, the name is Cream, and I got it when I was about 14 years old, and he was one of my pimps.
Adriana says it all started when she was 13, rebelling and decided to run away from home. She says she went to a party and met a guy who promised her the glamorous life. But she soon found out that in order to get anything, she had to work for him out here selling sex. What were you feeling at 13 years old, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a life of an adult?
I felt awesome. I thought I was just too cool. I knew everything. I was doing everything. No one couldn't tell me anything. That's exactly what it was.
And what was he doing for you?
Nothing. He was just selling me that dream.
That dream has been sold to countless girls who also end up bearing the marks of ownership. These photos from the Van Nuys Vice Unit of the Los Angeles Police Department show just how prolific branding is. A trafficker's initials on a girl's face, a nickname on her thighs, images of money bags, a blatant message on her neck, F you, pay me, even a barcode like an item in a grocery store. LAPD Captain Lillian Carranza says she first noticed the trend about 5 years ago.
This is just another way to not only control them, to let them know you belong to me, also to let other pimps know, hey, this individual belongs to me.
Like property.
Exactly. This is no different than when you or I would mark our shirts or lunchbox or lunch for the day with our name in order to let everybody else know, hey, this is our property.
For Adriana, as the months ticked by, the work grew increasingly grueling. Her trafficker demanding she make a certain amount of money. She worked day and night, sometimes in life-threatening situations. So guns pulled on you?
Mm-hmm.
Knives?
Knives, yes. I've gotten a few knives before, and it's very scary.
How do you live with that fear?
You don't. You can't live with it. You kill yourself at night. That's what you do to live with that fear. What? No, you don't live with that type of fear.
What do you do with that?
You suppress it.
She says pimps encourage girls to take drugs and get them hooked so they can work 24 hours a day. Adriana says she refused, and instead tried to disengage mentally.
You have to. I mean, because I didn't do drugs, I had to find a way of coping with this. I mean, it's very disgusting. It's nasty. You feel so uncomfortable. Naturally, you're going to be traumatized, whether it's a gun to your head, a knife to your belly, whether it's you being raped or robbed or whatever it is. Naturally, you're going to have some type of trauma behind it. And because you've been sold dreams and you've fallen in love over and over again, and that's all you're looking for, you get hurt a lot because none of it is real.
Did you ever think when you were branded that it mirrors what they used to do to slaves?
Yes, I believe this is modern day slavery. Definitely.
But she has so far decided to keep the brand right where it is and insisted on showing her face to let other girls see they don't have to live in shame. How do you go forward and live a different life?
I don't know.
Still trying to figure it out.
Yes.
Adriana is working towards a high school diploma, but the future is fuzzy because the life, as she calls it, keeps pulling her back. From her child.
Oops. Okay. So interesting enough, I have seen Cream on a lot of girls. He had a lot of girls out there in LA. Cream is in jail, and he will be in jail for a very long time. He named himself Cream because of a rap song in which it says that cash rules everything around me, dollar, dollar bills, y'all. And so that is that's how he came up with the word cream. And I think it's really important for law enforcement to understand and know this branding as well, because let's say Cream is running girls out of Phoenix, or he's running girls out of Mesa, somebody like him. They know he's an LA pimp, and they call LAPD to find out about this dude Cream because they have him in custody. They may find out what it is that they're looking for him for, or maybe they haven't had a chance to put that warrant in the system yet, or maybe they're looking for him in LA for several murders. Who knows? But I think it's this whole idea of branding and understanding what it is extremely important. And I think it's also important for those that are working with victims of human trafficking, that if you see that on a girl, like you know, it's going to take you back the first time you see it. But if you know what it is, one, you're not going to probably ask about it or show it in your face that you're shocked by the fact that the girl has the word loyalty written across the side of her face, because we've had her too. So I didn't know if we mentioned it, we might have. When I retired from LAPD, I actually became the executive director of an organization called Journey Out. It used to be called the Mary Magdalene Project, and we assisted adult victims of human trafficking. And now I'm with Cozy. So of course, who are the traffickers? They're going to be men, women, gangs, familial. And then of course we have, you have female pimps. Interesting enough, this was a female pimp out of LA, and she recruited off of the internet, and she was well known in South Central. Thank God. And you notice her tattooing and her branding as well, because at one point she too was a victim of human trafficking. That's how she started, and then she became a pimp. Again, she's in jail for pimping minors. And how they found her on a radio call, because they were in an apartment in South Central. One of her girls was there. She girl didn't want to work. And so they poured a substance on her. And they poured bleach on her. That's what it was. And so she started screaming as a result of that. And the neighbors called the police. When officers got there, they asked for her to come out. She was very reluctant to come out and tell what happened. When they were able to coach her out, she told her story, and that's how this female pimp went to jail. And then they realized that not only was she heavily recruiting on social media, but they were able to find minors. She pled out to 15 years because she was looking at a life sentence, and her name was Pretty Ho. Now, I did a presentation for some young ladies in Los Angeles for an organization, and these were girls that were debutante girls. So, you know, their parents were doctors, lawyers, you know, the whole bit. And when I put this up about Pretty Ho, before I could even say anything, they were like, wow, that's Pretty Ho. And I'm going like, how do you know her? And they were like, she's all over the internet. I mean, like she had so many likes that they knew her. And one girl said, I saw her at the mall and we were so excited to see her because when you see other pictures of her, she looks a little bit more glamorous. And so they actually had run up to talk to her. And of course, they didn't tell me if they gave her number or not, if they exchanged numbers. I'm sure that they did. But you have to remember a lot of these influencers that are on social media, there are movie stars now, right? So they have a lot of influence on the younger generation. And here's a perfect example of it. And she used her influencer stardom to recruit minors. And so what are we doing in Los Angeles? We're doing the same thing like everybody else. We're building the plane and trying to fly it at the same time. So here's some legislation that actually went through. AB 1227, that's human trafficking prevention in schools, you know, which sounds great, right? The problem is, and I know they're revisiting this on a federal level. The problem with AB 1227 is that it came without money. And so now you're asking the schools to teach human trafficking prevention between middle and high school. There was no money. Who's going to teach it? So a lot of times you had the principals looking at the health teacher or the sex ed teacher going, hey, can you teach this? So there were a lot of problems in this. HR 507, put trafficking victims first. I'm trying to go so fast. Act of 2019. And again, this is restitution, training for prosecutors, data collection, exhausting measures to identify victims of human trafficking. I did a presentation on human trafficking and on decriminalization. And I want to say this judge might have been out of Arizona, asked the question of, she said, how do I know that this person is a victim of human trafficking? Which I thought was an excellent question coming from a judge, because even though it may not be the thing of excusing somebody for a crime, but that judge plays an important part when it comes to sentencing. And if you understand that this person may have committed this robbery where they robbed a John customer at the direction of her trafficker, that might play into not only the verdict aspect of it, but the sentencing aspect of it. AB 2034 this is something that passed in which we post human trafficking awareness on rail, bus stations, that should say truck stops instead of track stops. Massage establishments and hotels were recently added. If you go into LAX, and you go into the bathroom that's there, you will notice these type of postings on human trafficking awareness for both labor and sex trafficking. And then of course, safe harbor, no one under the age of 18 are arrested for the crime of prostitution. And this should be happening all across the United States, but unfortunately you have some smaller places in which this is not happening. Some of the practices in Los Angeles are the prostitution diversion program. Journey Out actually had a prostitution diversion program. And then there's also diversion programs for Johns. Our city attorney's office is the one that is spearheading that particular diversion program, not Journey Out. And then of course, trauma-informed centered programs, which I know you guys are doing as well in Arizona. No arrests of identified victims. Sometimes law enforcement has to be reminded of that, but for the most part, they're doing an excellent job. There's been such a paradigm shift of law enforcement going in the right direction since I retired in 2013. Training of first responders should include fire, police, prosecutors. I actually trained our fire department, and Arizona, I have to give it to you guys because I think it's ASU, because this is where I got the idea from, where there was a study that was done on fire departments and how they've kind of been left out of the loop as it pertains to training and being able to identify victims of human trafficking. But when you think about it, it's going to be the firemen, it's going to be that ambulance or RA unit that's going to be on scene. It's going to be fire that is going to actually see victims of human trafficking, both labor and sex, while they are still in captivity. So we really, meaning all of us in the movement, need to make sure that our fire departments are trained on identifying human trafficking victims. And I'll tell you, when I trained Los Angeles City, that not only were those guys sitting there going like, oh my God, how many times did I give a patient to an uncle, that I knew something just wasn't right, but I didn't know exactly what that was. And then coming up with ways to be able to separate that victim from her pimp is important conversation to also have, because we know the hospitals are getting training on this. And so it's very easy to separate a patient and putting them in another room and finding out exactly what's going on with them. And then of course, police task force targeting the Johns nationwide conversation. I'm so glad is being focused on demand. Of course, regional task force, training of emergency room doctors, social workers, probation. I went into the doctor's office and ladies, how you have to fill out that little clipboard information about your medical history. And one of the questions was, do you feel safe at home? Well, do you feel safe where you live? Well, I know that question was probably more geared to DV, but imagine if someone does not check that, now they go in and see their doctor, and their trafficker has to wait in the waiting room. You can have that doctor can have the conversation of why was that box not checked. And so I was very happy to see that. And then, of course, crisis response teams. And in talking to Arizona, that's something that you guys are doing as well, in terms of having nonprofits working alongside law enforcement to respond for victims of human trafficking. And then, of course, expungements and vacatures. If a victim can get a vacature, that means that her record it goes away, period. Expungements, it just may be sealed, but a vacature gives them a whole clean sheet. I was talking to a survivor who had just gotten a vacature, and she said, finally, my record really reflects me. That's a powerful statement, because when they are having to deal with these arrest records, it really is a boundary or an obstacle that's hard to get away from. And then for one to think that arrest record reflects who they are speaks volumes, and that shows how important it is. And then of course, aggressive prosecution. So that's what I have. So let me let you guys talk, and then I will stop sharing my screen. All right. Any questions, thoughts? What do you think? Oh, wait. I got to tell you guys about this. And because I cannot forget this. This is something that we're dealing in California right now. So Scott Weiner has proposed Senate Bill 357, California Senate Bill 357. And let me tell you what 357 is going to do. And it deals with loitering for the purposes of prostitution. He wants to get rid of that. Here's where this becomes problematic. And I'm putting my police hat on. I should have put my clipper hat on, but I'm putting my police hat on. Yeah, you know, when this didn't work, I should have got my clipper hat. Anyway, so, and I got to make a little light of this because this really makes me angry. So let me tell you how it plays itself out. So let's say, you know, I'm a vice sergeant. I'm sitting on the blade or the prostitution track. I see a girl who I think might be 15 years old. She's walking up and down. I don't know if she's 15 or 21. I see her walking up and down the track in front of businesses. I know that she's out there for the purposes of prostitution. I need to be able to have probable cause to be able to stop her, to be able to determine how old she is. If you take that tool away from me, I don't have the ability to do that. Because God help me, if I stop her and she's 21, then what's my reasoning for the stop? It puts me into a situation. Right. And when I portrayed this, I just was talking to LAPD. They were having a task force, and they had officers from 5 different divisions. And there was about 30 of them in the room because Hollywood division, their vice unit, there's 15 in their vice unit. And I asked them, what did they think? And they said, I'll tell you what I think. I think you should show them the pictures of the girls that we see that are being tortured or those that have been burnt alive. And what you're telling me is that you're taking a tool away from me where I have the ability to be able to identify her as a human trafficking victim. Now, some would say that the reasoning behind this would be to keep another word for this bill is the belief that people are they're using this penal code for harassment purposes. So some will call it walking while trans. And so are there sometimes officers that will misuse a penal code section for other reasons? Yeah, it happens. But to take it away totally is also taking away a tool for the ability to identify. Also, what comes with this is the repeal of 653.20 and 653.22. If you repeal that, what you're saying is that a business cannot complain because there's prostitution activity happening in front of his business, meaning that you have people that are going up and down, loitering for the purposes of prostitution. So that includes public places, parking lots, anywhere where there's prostitution activity. You cannot stop or making, because it's a misdemeanor for that. But if that didn't get you, 53.22 will, because guess who else you can't stop for the purposes of prostitution? The Johns. So if I'm sitting there, because I'm back with my police hat on, and I see a white Toyota who is going around the block several times, I put decoys out there. The decoys are talking to this dude. He realizes, oops, because this is not my first rodeo. I can tell the difference between a police decoy and somebody that's real, but he's still going around the corner. Guess how I get rid of that dude? I arrest him for that loitering charge. So hands are tied. Last but not least, Oregon. Oregon is going for full decrim. It was introduced, but it died. So you might think, okay, well, that's the end of that. Well, no, it's not. Because now they can put it on the ballot. How about that? They can put it on the ballot, and the way Oregon's laws are, a legislator can't get rid of it once it's voted for. So Oregon is now, the nonprofits in Oregon are now mobilizing to be able to educate their community, because the community doesn't know what's about to hit them, right? If they don't know that all of a sudden they're going to vote for this. And of course, the other side is saying that sex work is work, and it gives people the opportunity to work. Well, I'm sorry, if you talk to survivors of human trafficking, being sodomized and choked out, I don't know what kind of job that is, but I know it's not one that many people sign up for. So, okay, that's it. I stopped the preaching. Please, I want to open it up for questions, but I had to tell you those other two things.
Thank you. And it was all worthwhile. Thank you. You did. We haven't announced it, but it's the end of July, and there's going to be there's a mom here who daughter was perceived as a runaway, to your point. And we're pretty clear now she's been being trafficked. She's been gone 1 year and 9 months. That was out of Glendale. And so mom learned a lot because the police said, oh, she's a runaway. And so she's gone out and now made a criteria for if your child goes missing, here's what you need to do. So Streetlight, Phoenix Dream Center, we're going to host it at Dream City Church end of July. And and they've been looking for her daughter and facial recognition and everything, and we still have not found her. So we continue to look for her, but it's really important that these cases, and to your point, Stephanie, that they are what they are. Like if they're saying they're runaway, okay, but what can a parent do? And so we're trying to give skills, because this mom's daughter is missing. She gets a lot of phone calls from other parents whose kids go missing. And so we're trying to now, and it re-traumatizes her. So we're trying to take it a little bit away so she can have some peace and then educate other people. So it's really valid what you're saying. I just wanted to underline that and then open it up for questions. So if anybody has a question, go ahead and ask Dr. Powell, please. Anybody? Okay, well then I have something else you said that's really important. Our first responders and our firefighters, a lot of times they'll do a scoop. Police aren't even involved, and they weren't recognizing the fact that they had a victim. And I think it's really critically important. And we have great firefighters here in the state of Arizona. And I'm partial to the police, but they both have to work together hand in hand. Another point that you made is our judicial system and our judges and our prosecutors understanding this crime and the nature of the crime. And I think that the laws are critically important, that we give them the tools and the skills so that they can do what they need to do their job. We have a Super Bowl coming up in 2023 again. Do you have any recommendations on what we should be doing as a city, as a state, to get ready for that? And
let me tell you,
and what can the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children do with us so that we are best prepared for that?
Well, let me tell you, I'm on it. And because it's coming to Inglewood, California. So we've started gearing up now. It's going to be in Inglewood in 2022.
Oh, next year.
I'm sorry? Next year.
Next year.
Yeah. So we're gearing up right now, and we're gearing up with the nonprofit organizations working in conjunction with law enforcement. So yeah, I would love to share with you what it is that we're doing. Great. And I would love to share with you, and the good part of it, I can also share with you what went right and what went wrong. And we've gotten together not only the nonprofit organizations, but the big churches as well. And so yes, I would love to do that.
That's great. That's great. Last time you guys followed us, it was in San Francisco after it was here. So I did that back then. Does anybody else?
I just want to say one thing about that is, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I believe that your nonprofits and your folks need to be the ones headlining what goes on in your city as it pertains to the NFL. I'm just saying, because what happens is they will have, not that I'm trying to take away anybody's money, but they'll have consultants that are coming in from outside telling y'all what you need to do. So I think if you guys, and I will teach you everything that we are doing, honestly, because I think that the hosting city should be the one in the forefront, because one, aside from the fact that girls are going to be coming from outside, but there are also going to be girls from inside, and there might be an uptick in recruitment. So getting out the word of prevention and awareness is going to be so important. So we'll talk about that later. I think this gentleman had a question. Mark did, I think.
Go ahead, Mark. Are you, I don't think you're unmuted. Mark Cooley, we can't hear you.
Got it.
There you go, there you go.
Dr. Powell, hey, I appreciate it. One of the things that stuck out to me, what you said was you talked about Native Americans. I know you said African Americans, but Native Americans as well. I know in California, there's over 200 tribes that are in California. And I read a study from the DOJ that 82% of Native Americans that get trafficked are within the cities, not on the reservation. It's only 8% on reservations. So I guess my question is, when you in Los Angeles, when you were working the Vice Squad, what kind of, did you see quite a bit of Native Americans? And if so, what I'm finding here in Phoenix, that it's not really the Native females, it's more of the Native trans males. And if you've been finding that as well. And so I guess that's my question is how prevalent was it in California for LA? So
for LA draws everybody, right? And so I did run into a few, but here's what was interesting. These girls would come into LA and work, or be brought into LA and work, and then go back to the reservation. So nobody in the reservation knew what they were doing.
Correct.
And they would make that a regular thing. So that's kind of that was a common thread I saw. But what I think is really important, because I did a presentation and someone was from tribal police out of California, San Bernardino. And they were saying how they don't know anything about this whole thing regarding human trafficking. So they may not be seeing it on the reservation because they don't know what it is that they're looking for. Does that make sense? Whereas in the city they do. So that's another, I think, and I think I talked about this when I was in Arizona, the need for human trafficking prevention and education to also include the tribal.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, I know here in Arizona we have 21 tribes, and so I know I've been working with Kathleen. And we're just barely starting a new nonprofit where we're going to be focusing on investigating this MMIP type stuff in Indian country. So I'm also a retired police officer with the city of Tempe. So that's how I'm hoping to bring that to light as well. So, but thank you for your presentation. I would love to get your contact information, reach out to you another time.
I'll send it to you, Mark.
Okay.
And Judge King, if he was on here, we had a tribal judge who was here. I don't see if he's still here.
Oh my God, Mark, I applaud you. And I hope the judge is still on, because I believe that there's a gap, because I have also read where it comes to missing Indigenous women or those that have been sexually assaulted with the man camps that are nearby. Yep. And it's a conversation that must be had, and it needs to come from within, if that makes sense.
It does. I was actually up in North Dakota about a month and a half ago, and the oil fields up there, they have them. They have the man camps. And so most of the things that we're seeing for MMIP, for murdered, missing Indigenous persons, is all mostly in the north. Not saying not happening here, but it's mostly in the northern part of the United States, and also a huge problem in Canada. That's where we're seeing that. So again, we're new to the game, but we're excited. Part of a little bit about our group, it's called Native American Fatherhood and Family Association. And we've been around for over 20 years, basically trying to get the father back into the home. But now we're branching off in this anti-human sex trafficking. So thank you.
Please reach out to me. And if you look at the stat, and those of you guys that are on this call that work with victims of human trafficking, how about the stat that 80 to 90% of them were molested as children or have suffered some type of molestation. Yeah. So if you're talking about girls that are being sexually assaulted near band camps, it's only going to be a matter of time based on that trauma that you know, that there's a blurred line going into human trafficking. But we'll talk. Let's talk.
Judge King is off the call, but he also wants to talk to you, so I'll connect you guys when we're done.
Yeah, please do. And I will also send you this presentation, you guys, my PowerPoint.
That's great.
You're welcome to have it.
One last thing, because I think it's important. We know that there's been an increase, obviously, of people coming over the border. I think everybody knows that. Unfortunately, we also know that sexual predators are coming across, and there's been a marked increase in the number of sexual predators coming across. And they're not being detained, they're not being arrested, they're just being allowed to kind of go into our communities. So what is NCOSE, or what are some of these other organizations doing to, you know, it's a law enforcement tech or border issue, but how do we keep our communities safe, and how do we make people aware that we now have people that have been not just accused, but convicted of sexual assault or rape or sodomy or molestation now loose in our communities in our country. So you know, it's a 3,000% increase, over 3,000% increase in the last 90 days.
You know, I think there's several things, and NCOSE has not really made a stand as it pertains to this. But what I say is that you've got, you know, I know law enforcement is going to, you know, be on it in terms of who they're arresting or who is out there. But I think the community needs to keep doing what it is they're doing in terms of awareness and prevention and calling. You got to keep doing what you're doing. And then we also have to remember how many of those children that are coming across that are being united with family members or people in general for the purpose of being sold for not only sex, but labor. So it's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on.
Keep doing what it is that we're doing.
It's almost overwhelming. Yeah, we know, we've been told, and I've seen that they've got a number on their hand and they say it's an uncle or an aunt or somebody, and it's a trafficker. So not only are they're being exploited the whole way up, but then when they get here, they're now we're helping facilitate the whole criminal enterprise.
And I think what's important, because there is no protection, that we also all have to be careful and still be able to recognize them as human trafficking victims. Yes. Not, you know, just kids that are coming across the border. I mean, I think about those kids that are wandering in the desert that are 3 years old. You know, anyway.
Yeah.
I think somebody else Brenda had her hand up.
Yeah, Brenda.
Hi. I missed the first part. I apologize. I think I saw that it's being recorded, so I can go back and see the parts that I missed. I had back-to-back Zoom meetings. This last Saturday, I had an opportunity to talk briefly with Arizona Supreme Court Justice Gould, who has recently resigned as a Supreme Court Justice to run for US Senate. And so I asked him what his position was on increasing, first of all, after the previous Super Bowl, during the run up to our Super Bowl here in 2015, 2014, the one thing that was not accomplished in the legislation was increasing the penalties on the buyer's side. And I think that everybody that looked at the legislation that passed said that was the one shortfall. And so I asked him that Saturday what position he would take and how he would engage in this part of the conversation. And he said he has a big history in this field before he was an Arizona Supreme Court Justice, when he was in the Yuma sector. And so he brings a lot to the conversation, but he made me aware of something that I didn't know, is that they've actually downgraded in recent legislation in Arizona, the seizures that we can do. You know, previously they were doing all kinds of RICO seizures, and that helped fund a lot of the undercover ops and so forth. And they've downgraded the seizures, which is exactly the opposite of what needed to happen. So I think he'll be an ally, but I just think that we need to get that back on the front, on the radar screen in a big way, leading up to the coming Super Bowl, is what can we do to strengthen the penalties on the buyer side. Stephanie, I think that you'll find that Arizona did Jan Brewer's legacy will be the governor's task force on human trafficking. And she did a fabulous job. And all of the things that came out of that, I think we can hold our heads high, and it really launched all of the conversations that are happening now. And Kathleen, I know that you're riding the wave of what she began. And I'm so proud of Arizona in that regard. But here we are coming up again. Stephanie, you've got a Super Bowl coming and we're right on your heels behind that. And so the collaboration that happened, I've said over and over again, and people know my mantra is there's no limit to what we can accomplish if we don't care who gets the credit. And so regaining that momentum going forward is an important aspiration.
You know, you guys could always do what Texas did. I heard that Texas passed a law that if you get caught buying sex, it's a felony, not a misdemeanor.
We did that we did actually pass that for this year. So we did do that.
You guys did it too?
Yeah, we did. We did a great job. We have, but Brenda is correct. Brenda is absolutely correct about the fact that we didn't, we did two things. The RICO laws did get weakened, unfortunately. We still have good laws, but it's unfortunate, different standards. And the other thing is that we really have kind of looked the other way when it comes to buyers. That's why I love the operations that have been done by law enforcement, where they give advance warnings to buyers, 3 to 5 advance warnings that they're buying sex with a child, and yet we still have men that go ahead and say, yes, I'm gonna have sex with a child now, and get 30 to 40 every time they do them. The problem is we can't be doing those all the time, and we have such a limited amount of resources right now. So we really have to do the best we can to support our law enforcement and continue to make people aware as this crime develops. But I so appreciate, number one, your commitment to this, and just the fact that you served as a law enforcement officer and then didn't go very far, and now are an advocate and speaking out on this. It's just such a gift. I cannot thank you enough for your time today.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything else? Okay. Go ahead, honey.
I just wanted to say really quick, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. And I have to tell you, when I came back from my trip from Arizona, I was so jazzed and so excited about the things that you guys are doing, especially when it comes to working with law enforcement. So I was really happy about that, to see what you guys are doing. And there's some things that we could learn from you guys.
Well, we know for sure you can learn about basketball. No, just kidding.
I'm gonna have you in mind today when I watch that game.
I hope we win, just because I just did that. Hope I didn't think. I adore you. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay cool, please. And our next meeting will be August 17th at 2 o'clock. We're going to do a hybrid. We're going to be meeting in person and Zoom. I just so appreciate, I've got lots of our law enforcement partners on and everybody that's here today. So thank you for taking the time to hear about this information, and we'll be updating speakers and everything else. Megan, did you have an announcement? I forgot, and I just saw your face.
That's okay if you want to, or I can send it later. So I'm with an organization called CC's Hope Center, and we're putting together a fundraising event. It will be virtual, well, kind of hybrid. So people can gather together, but also attend virtually. And it's essentially a craft experience. So we're partnering with an artist named Pamela Alderman. Some of you might have heard of her. She did the Scarlet Cord experience. And she's designed a purse for us that we will build together that just kind of builds awareness about human trafficking. We'll do some educational things, a little bit of entertainment, and a craft together. And then you'll have the purse to carry. I'm sure people will ask questions of you, or to gift to someone to share that information. And so I'd love to share, we're kind of in early stages. We're hoping the event can take place in November. And so I am both gathering sponsorships so that all ticket prices 100% go to support our programs and services through CC's Hope Center. But I'm also gathering volunteers to help put together the materials. So the purse is created with an actual purse that we are purchasing from it's a working farm in South Africa that supports women who are recovering from the trauma of trafficking. So they will make the purses for us, and then we will decorate them with ribbons and denim. And so a little package will be delivered with your registration. So if you like, I could share.
Yeah, please.
I wonder if I have to request. I'm going to just try. Let's see what happens.
It did not work. Oh, here we go.
Okay, cool. So here's my PDF. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. I never know. So this is the purse. So you can see it's a handbag, kind of a hobo purse. And this is what it looks like when it's fully decorated. And this is the document that we're using to describe the pieces of ribbon. So I don't know how many of you are crafty out there, but we'll package up these little ribbons, and ultimately a person will decorate their purse like that. And our sponsorship stuff, let's see. We have sponsorships at really reasonable levels and all the way to the big fun stuff. So I'd love to email it around or whatever is easiest.
Send it to me and I'll send it out to everybody. And then we'll when you have all the definite dates and everything by August, hopefully, then we can announce it and then we can get people to sign up. But it sounds like a fun, wonderful event that we could do together. And I appreciate everything.
Sure, and I can put my email address here if anyone's interested.
Okay, that's great. And thank you. Thank you, everybody. Again, Dr. Powell, thank you, Stephanie, so much. So grateful for your time and your commitment and everything you're doing, and everybody on the call. Stay safe, and we will see you again in August. And Councilman Thompson, get it done. All right, everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.
Stay connected to Mesa Chamber social media, email newsletters, Monday morning message, and mesachamber.org to always know what's happening at your Mesa Chamber.